Back is Dorsey to throw. And he throws it in the end zone. Off to the races. Can he catch it?
The Ohio State of Mind podcast, hosted by Josh Kingdom and Chris Reed.
It is Tuesday, the 25th of February. February is already almost over. It is the Ohio State of Mind podcast. As always, I'm Chris. Just to my left is Josh. Josh, it is Tuesday, not Monday, but how are we feeling?
I'm doing great, man. Justina's sick. The baby's sick. My work is suffering. Other than that, though, Ohio State is still national champions. So
they are still not. So fatherhood is just kicking in, just fucking from first to fifth, real quick, huh?
Every day I wake up and just wish for death.
Hey, Will, how's it going? How are you doing, my friend? Thanks for joining us again this week. Hope you are doing well. Hope everything is coming up Millhouse on your end. Last week, we had our NIL expert, Austin Feniger, on. This week, we're going to cover some Buckeye news that we might have happened here in the last week. Maybe we missed, maybe we didn't cover. We've got one piece that we would be remiss if we didn't bring up. We're going to get to that shortly, but it is episode 63. I chose for 63. I chose Michael Bennett. Hey, national champion, 3-1 against that team up north. He was a captain, All-American, and an academic All Big Ten selection as well, and quite an impressive career with the Buckeyes. What are your choices there, Josh?
Yeah, man. I looked at I'm not going to sit here and act like I studied this all weekend, but the first name that popped off that I remember having a real impact is Kirk Loudermilk. Michael Bennett is a good pick for how impactful he was on that team. But Kirk Loudermilk was really good for Ohio State, and he went on to be in the NFL for 10 plus years. Was very good for the numerous teams he played for. And I think when you look back on those teams in the 80s, he was one of the better players on those rosters. Michael Bennett, when we look back on that national championship team, where do you rank him as maybe, I don't know.
He was what we would say he was the second best defensive lineman on that team behind Bosa, you would say, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, who are the starting – what are we looking at starting defensive linemen that year?
That's a good question. I was trying to think of who played the other defensive tackle spot. Honestly, I was thinking about it. We think about national champions. I almost went with national champion from 2002. I almost went Adrian Clark.
Oh, that's a good one too.
And
Adrian Clark's a good one. Very underrated. Very good player.
I almost went with a 3-year starter, the center for Joe Germain, Kurt Murphy.
Kurt Murphy. That was the name I didn't recognize, dude. That was the name I didn't remember. The Adrian Clark one's good though, dude. That those 2 years he started, 2002, 2003, national year and the year afterwards. Those lines, I've been kind of going down a rabbit hole. I just watched the Ohio State Washington game from 2003, and that offensive line was great, man. You had Adrian Clark, you had Shane Olivier, rest in peace. I think it was Alex Stepanovich. Then he got hurt. And then Nick Mangold was playing a lot.
Yeah.
All those guys spent, except for there was
Stepanovich.
Yes, yeah. And then there was a guard when Stepanovich got hurt, and then Nick Mangold played. Maybe Stepanovich moved to guard. There was another guard. The other guard that played, Bryant Browning, maybe, I can't remember. Was like a 5-star recruit. I mean, he didn't live up to the hype, but it's interesting to look back and be like, oh shit, I remember that guy's recruitment. And all that. And then speaking of recruits, another when I'm looking through the history of Ohio State players were in 63. Ben Person was another offensive lineman. He didn't really live up to the hype. I don't even remember him starting, but he was like a 4-star, 5-star guy. He was on the cover of one, those back when Bucknuts would release the recruiting magazines and Kroger and shit.
Yeah, we saw him. We saw him on a couple. A couple covers of Bucknuts. We saw him big hype in that old Ohio 33, that North-South game. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a big time recruit. So that would be another guy that I saw and I was like, oh shit, okay. And then of course, like you said, Michael Bennett. But those are probably the three guys that I would point out. I know that there's a lot of historical guys that are people probably would point out rather than what we picked. But that's where I'm at. And I do have the depth chart for that defensive line pulled up, that 2014 team. Joey Bosa, Adolphus Washington, Michael Bennett, Steve Miller. Michael Bennett's better than Steve Miller. I don't know if he's better than Adolphus Washington, though.
No, Adolphus Washington was good. Steve Miller is going to go down in Buckeye lore for the pick six in the Sugar Bowl game as well. So
yeah, good call.
He's definitely had his moments. You're talking 63. I was also thinking another recruit that was highly touted didn't really produce on the field. It was if you remember Ivan Blackman.
Oh, that name does not ring a bell.
2010. Will, hey, disappointed I missed out last week. Have to go back and view. Hey, we had a lot of good questions answered last week, Will. A lot of things that we weren't too privy on, that we got the inside scoop and just got an idea of how the whole NIL process works. And then when it comes to, collective sharing and now coming forward with these conferences as well. But Austin was a great guest, and we actually look forward to having Austin back here, hopefully after July, and maybe the NCAA will have some new rulings that he could help break down and interpret for us. I think that would be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have him on right after the spring portal opens too, to kind of get us a feel like, hey, what's the market like comparatively speaking, spring portal, winter portal, all that good stuff. But yeah, Austin is a wealth of knowledge. Feel free to follow him on Twitter or on X. Reach out to him with any questions that you have. He's a very, very friendly dude, very interesting.
I would agree wholeheartedly. We've got some sad and somber news we do need to get to, though. We have missed it the last 2 weeks, and we would just be hard-pressed if we didn't bring up the passing 2 weeks ago of Jim Carsados. Jim Carsados being on the Buckeye team from 83 to 86, really hit his stride, really came into the spotlight in 85 and 86. He was that quarterback that really kind of just started flinging the damn thing. And I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong, it helps when you've got all Chris Carter out there at receiver too. But Carsados was one of the real first gunslingers, if I really go back when it comes to Buckeye football. But no, obviously, and then of course, us back in the day, we remember hearing Jim Carsados on the radio as well. When we were kids, we're a little too young to see him play live, but I definitely remember hearing him on 95 The Fan. But what do we got to say, Josh?
Yeah, man, but he is a very important Buckeye. He gets lost in all the sauce of the newest Buckeyes breaking all these records. But before them, Jim Carsados, you had Art Schlichter, who was a Heisman finalist 3 years, his final 3 years at Ohio State before being a first-round pick. And then you had Jim Carsados. The offense absolutely changed under Jim Carsados. Whenever you see a Chris Carter highlight at Ohio State, it's Jim Carsados throwing him the ball. I got some of his stats up here that were really blow your mind. He in his 1985 was probably his best season, but he set the school record for completion percentage that year with 61.2%. He had the record for most consecutive passes completed in a game with 12 against Wisconsin. He finished the season with 2,311 passing yards, which at the time, him and Art Schlichter were the only quarterbacks in school history to throw for over 2,000 yards. So what he did was absolutely insane given how football was played at Ohio State at that time. He opened, like you said, that was that 1985 passing attack with Jim Carsados passing to Chris Carter and Mike Lanese. Let's not forget Mike Lanese, who was also very, 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 very good. It elevated Ohio State's passing attack to a new level. And I think it is also interesting. I believe that his quarterbacks coach at the time of 1985 was Jim Tressel. So maybe Tressel had a little say in that. But Carsados, interesting guy. His recruitment is a very interesting thing to follow as well. He was a big kid from California. Obviously in the day before 24/7 Sports came out and ESPN, and back in the day, very rarely were you getting California kids to come to Ohio State, and he did. He committed to Ohio State over USC. Basically all the big guns. He was one of the first quarterbacks that was not really like athletic. Before him, a lot of the quarterbacks ran the ball or had some type of athleticism to that. Karsotos wasn't really like that. As a matter of fact, he tore his ACL or something his senior year in high school, and obviously this is the '80s, so it took 2 years to heal. So he didn't enroll in college the first year, and then the second year he took a red shirt. So he really wasn't with Ohio State until his third year. When he came to camp, I believe he was overweight, so Earl Bruce had to like cut him down. But he was just a huge, massive guy. Probably had the same body type as a guy like Cardio Jones today. But yeah, very important in the history of Ohio State and the development of the passing game, and really, really, really a name that does not need to be forgotten.
No, and I did some of my trip down memory lanes and opened up the Buckeye archive. I went back to the YouTube pages of like our honor defend and whatnot. I went back and caught a little bit of that 1985 game where they knock off number 1 Iowa. I mean, absolutely 2 years as a Buckeye quarterback and being 9 wins in each season. I mean, let's be real. And everyone's seen, like I said, he had the privilege to throw to Chris Carter. Even if you didn't know it, you knew that you've seen Jim Karsatos because you've seen that Chris Carter one-handed sideline catch, half 100%. A dozen times, or 100%. Every time that he was on First Take on Fox Sports 1, you'd see it. But no, Jim Karsatos was a dog. You're absolutely right. They definitely shifted the offense. They shifted the offense. And you think about Ohio State's history when he became a quarterback, to throw for 2,000 yards, holy shit. And it's 1985, so yeah. I'd put Jim Karsatos. He's top 15, top 12 quarterbacks in Ohio State history. I'm going to put him up there. Mind you, he's got a small sample size for 2 years. I think he's top 12, top 15.
As a pure passer, it's hard to disagree with that, right? Especially considering the stats. I mean, statistically speaking, shit, he might even be higher than that. I don't know if I'd have him that high, but I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting discussion that we could get. Maybe we'll do a list or, a list episode where we rank our top 25 quarterbacks or whatever. Also depends what you're looking for. You know what I mean? Because, is he a better quarterback than a guy like Rex Kern or a guy like Steve Belisari who ran around a lot? Yeah. But, those guys ran around a lot, right? You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
A little bit something to think about.
No, but Jim Karsato, he is no longer with us. He died and he passed away. He passed away at the age of 61. That was on the 8th of February. You will be missed. We will miss hearing you on the radio. I mean, when did he stop with 95 the Fan or 98.5 the Fan?
It was a while ago. He still hung around a lot in Columbus. I saw him a couple years ago. Very pleasant individual, very nice guy. One of the nicest guys. He was just very cool, very talkative, very, very chill guy. I think he moved out to California recently, which is even sadder, kind of going back home. He's been off the radio for a while, but he would still do guest spots. I mean, I don't think it was too long ago that he was at least doing, guest spots, but I could be wrong about that as well.
Yeah. Well, Jim Karsato passes at age 61. And unfortunately, we've got some more news to bring up. Donovan Munger. I don't know if you remember Donovan Munger. We heard a lot about Donovan Munger when he left the program. He had the blood clot issue when he left the program. Everybody in there, that was close to the program, those tweets went out. We were, it was obviously regional news here on the East Coast, but Donovan Munger, he is passed at age 30, and wild story. I mean, it's definitely out of the blue, would you say?
I mean, yeah, he's only 30. He was only 30 years old. So, whenever somebody passes that's younger than me, I'm like, oh man, that's
right.
That's awful. A national champion. He was on that defensive line. He was a reserve on that defensive line that we were talking about earlier in 2014. I know he was a relatively high recruit. I don't know if he was like a 4-star. He wasn't a 5-star, but he was. I think he was like a 4-star recruit.
He was a 4-star. He was number 12 in Ohio and number 18 in the nation at defensive tackle.
Well, there you go. It's sad. It's sad. Things didn't bounce his way during his athletic career, and due to health reasons, and unfortunately, it appears that didn't go away. Those issues didn't go away.
Yeah. No, he was actually all Ohio as a senior in high school. 70 tackles as a senior, 14 for loss, 6 sacks, 23 pressures, 34 pancake blocks on the offensive side of the ball. Played both ways. But obviously that's going to garner your numbers. That's going to get you up there. He was the 237th overall recruit, according to 24/7 in his class. Like I said, number 12 in the state of Ohio, number 18 at his position. No, it's sad. It's wild. It's just those little things that you don't think about. It's those little things that jump up and catch you, and you've got to be aware of. But like you said, hey, when it's anybody that's younger than us, it's wild. But I mean,
even Jim Corsado's. 6 years old is not old. You know what I mean?
No,
I saw that guy a couple of years ago, and he looked fine to me. Yeah, it's just sad. Anytime anybody passes away, it's awful. And these guys, I know they don't know us, but they feel like a part of our lives because you see them on TV. Yeah. You're rooting for them. You're following their story. Obviously, it's way harder for the families and friends and all that, but it's still heartbreaking. It's upsetting.
No, absolutely. And last one until we get to some less somber news. We have to. I know, right? It's a bleak episode. I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Ben Chrisman. Obviously, he committed to Ohio State in 2020. Spent 2 years in Columbus, and he went ahead, transferred, became a Wildcat in Kentucky after spring practice in 2013. Then again, transferred in December of 2024 to UNLV. I want to bring it up because obviously, like, Ben, he passed one day before his 22nd birthday. Is wild. And some of I just kind of thought it was odd. He was at practice, and the day of practice he complained about chest pains to one of his teammates, and on the 10th, they brought it up to the UNLV Rebel coaching staff, and they went and he went ahead and got on the EKG, and they sent that off for results, and he passed in his dorm room the very next day. And I say all of that to say this. I just think it's odd. Maybe it's something that we start looking at when it comes to something, ailments or issues with the heart. If we're sitting here waiting on results and this, that, and third, I'm surprised the young man wasn't admitted to the hospital until results returned. And I just thought that was something that I'd bring up, Yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to make light. I don't want to, cue the X-Files music. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything. This is a young man's death, so it's definitely not the time. But it is. Whenever you see that someone passes away, and is an athlete of the highest caliber, like Ben Chrisman was, and it says he passed away of natural causes. The guy that played college football at a very high level for 4 years died of natural causes at the ripe old age of 21. Okay, well, again, I've talked to some of my it's not funny, but I was speaking to some of my friends who are coaches, and there have been an uptick in players talking about, hey, I got chest pains and stuff, at least in what they've seen. So I don't know. Again, we're talking about we're getting the conspiracy level, but
yeah, no, I get you.
That's a weird fucking story,
No, it's definitely, man, makes you look at things differently. No, Will, wholeheartedly, without question. I just know I do. I think it's odd to throw the natural causes tagline on it, but I think it's I don't want to speak, on the family or wherever they are in this process, but I do. I think it's weird if my kid essentially, comes to the coaching staff, hey, I'm having heart issues, and they EKG it, and then, hey, when we get these results, we'll let you know. Like, Maybe we take the extra step. Hey, until these results come back, it's not like we're flying them out to Switzerland or something. Why don't we just keep you here and monitor you for the time being? Maybe Ben Chrisman might still be here. I think it's something to look at.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that's wrong to say either. I mean, sometimes these coaches are human beings. Sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they don't act fast enough. Sometimes during a big storm, they don't tell the teenager that's filming the practice to get down in time. Brian Kelly, things happen. Sorry.
Didn't have that on my bingo card, but go ahead.
Too soon.
Whew.
Yeah.
No, I do. I agree with you. I think it's odd to state and natural causes. But Ben Chrisman, he is former Buckeye, former Rose Bowl champion. He is He passed away last week, one day before his 22nd birthday. But we can get to some less somber news. We can get to some less somber news. We can get to some Buckeye news. We can get to some Buckeye news about current Buckeyes, former Buckeyes, new Buckeyes, if you would. Let's start with the spring game. Oh, I'm sorry. The spring showcase. Josh, what are your thoughts of this ever-changing by the day spring showcase that we keep getting told about?
So this is what I really wanted to talk about today, because we are this is it, Chris. This is the death of the spring game. Okay.
I think you're right.
So I guess this is the death episode, but it's over. It's over. So Nebraska kind of started it. I think there's some other teams. Texas is doing it. You're not going to find these big ticket schools do the spring game anymore for a couple of reasons. A, the college football season is insanely long now, right?
Yeah.
It would be the season. They had to do something about the way the season is scheduled. There's too many games and it goes too deep. But also, at those opposing coaches, and we know this for a fact, we've talked to people, we know this for a fact, opposing coaches are having their, lower level GAs and all that watch other teams' spring games to gauge who is lower on the depth chart so that they can contact them in the transfer or, try to reach out to them, convince them to go to the transfer. So you're not going to have these guys, these spring games. They're not going to happen. They're not going to happen. These coaches don't want to show their cards. The spring game was always kind of a joke. When we were kids, it was a little bit less of a joke because you didn't have. It was just more of an event, a game. I don't know when that changed. I don't know why that changed. But I think Urban Meyer was really kind of the one that was like, "This is dumb. Yeah. We're going to do." Red zone exercise. We're going to treat it as a practice. And maybe that was the best move. So I'm going to miss it, but the spring game has not been the same basically since Urban Meyer. I mean,
for a decade.
Wasn't. Yeah. So
yeah, easy for the last decade. Doug Shepard, good news, please and thank you. Yeah, we're going to get to some good news. No, I like your choice of words because we're calling it a spring showcase, but effectively what they want to do is not showcase any of the other talent. But we're going to call it a showcase.
What they want to do is take your $15. That's what
take your $15. Hopefully you go and get a hot dog, maybe go up to the merch shop. I get that. I mean, at the same time, you're right. No,
they keep raising the prices. This is the most expensive spring game in Ohio State history, with 22 guys that are gone.
We and you said it when we were younger. It was when. I remember you and I, we went in, let's call it, 2002. Only non-contact was the quarterbacks in a red jersey, or in a black jersey.
Yeah, you're right.
That was the only non-contact. It was full go. But, of course, you've seen that start to fade away, too. And, no, I'm glad you brought that up. Because, like I said, I really didn't think about it. Like, what we're really doing is just putting a lot of film on there for guys that are playing in the fourth quarter and putting a catalog out there for the rest of college football to go ahead and just scoop them up. Makes sense. Yeah.
I get it. I understand it. I understand it. It's a bummer, but the spring game, I haven't liked the spring game really since John Cooper's been gone, or just since Jim Tressel left. It's just a glorified practice. It's cool. It's basically an excuse to get back in the shoe after 4 months of waiting. Hopefully someone makes a highlight reel catch like Jeremiah Smith or something like that. But other than that, it's just a practice. And so I'm cool with what they're doing. I do find it disappointing that they're charging $15. But again, that's not extravagant. I get it. And then with the new revenue sharing, they have to bring in some extra cash. It's going to be interesting to see what they do because,
here's a question right here. Go ahead.
Oh, there you go. So a couple things have been tossed around, right? So they're going to do some. They're going to do it like you're basically going to be. I don't know. You're basically going to be watching a practice, but the idea there's been ideas floated around like, oh, hey, are they going to Are you going to get a chance to meet the players? I don't think that's going to happen. These guys are, Chris, you and I talk about these autograph signs all the time. Will Howard has signed autographs for $170 at the mall. Caleb Downs is charging $100. Why are they going to? They're not going to sign autographs and hang out with you at the spring game. So I think you're probably going to see just drills. It's going to be like when you go enter the stadium early and they're doing their warm ups and they're passing on air, 7-on-7, yada yada yada. That's probably what you're going to see.
I see it just like an NFL training camp. You're going to get there early, like they do. They're sitting out there waiting for the gates to open. They sit their asses in the seats, and But to your point, hey, it's $15. I think it was either 2002 or 2003. I think your mom might have brought him a Papa John's pizza, and we got tickets to go.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. For a fact, tickets used to be free to that bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would buy a pepperoni and cheese and get 2 tickets to the spring game.
I think it was probably Donato's, right? You get the bobbleheads. They used to give out the bobbleheads too.
Yeah, and if we bought 15 pizzas, we get the Woody Hayes one. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. A ticket to the spring game and a Woody Hayes bobblehead, which I'm sure.
No, I could
down here.
I could definitely just see like, hey, you're gonna get behind the scenes, like even if it were another day in the Woody, but they're outside, in the shoe. I could see. Maybe I wouldn't think they'd want to. Maybe that you see some competition. You see a little bit of pro bowlery, if you would. But let's be real. This is a year where you want to see these 2 young quarterbacks play.
I don't think you're going to get to see that. I just don't think.
I don't think you are either. I think you're going to see something of maybe some skill competitions, or maybe some route trees, and maybe they'll throw some trash cans out there.
Yep. I think that's far more likely. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to show their depth chart.
No, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, but that's my opinion. I guess we'll see.
No, you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't bat an eye if that's what we see. I not one bit. You're definitely going to see some kids come out of the stand like, who wants to do a 40-yard dash against Caleb Downs?
Yep.
That's going to. Who wants Donato's pizza for a year?
Yep.
Speaking of the depth charts, we've got here soon come April some NFL teams looking to fill some spots in the depth chart. Doing that in the NFL draft, 15 Buckeyes, 1-5, have been invited to the combine this year. And I think second place, next closest is what we're talking, Texas, Georgia. Georgia had 14. Yeah,
I think.
No, absolutely. Will, $15 to walk around the shoe was not bad. When I went there, it was nice without the big crowd, be able to move around in the stands. Oh, for an experience, for an atmosphere, absolutely, Will.
I don't have an issue with the $15, but I am going to be the old man shaking his fist at the cloud. It used to be free, and you got far more, right? They charge you $15. They're going to sell 100,000 tickets, and then next year it's going to be 20, right? I mean, it is what it is. I'm not paying it. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't matter to me, but I don't. It's just you're right. It's a very reasonable price. It is a precursor to these tickets being $50.
This question is directed solely at you. Go ahead, Josh.
Do you think Beanie Wells wore beanies after he was drafted by the Cardinals? Arizona weather seems to. I agree with you, Mike. I think that he dropped the beanies. I haven't seen him in a beanie since he became pro. I actually, this is a great question to bring up with Beanie himself. Where are the beanies? Why are you not wearing beanies?
Also, missed market. Not a single Chris Wells Beanie Baby.
Oh my God, dude! Nailed it, bro.
Got them all day.
Yeah.
I saw some notable individuals not participating in the NFL Combine. One of those big names was Ashton Genty. Obviously, we both assume Ashton Genty will be the first running back taken off the board. Does that only help both Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins showcase some highlights? And
I don't think any of the Ohio State guys are working out.
Really? From
my understanding, I don't think any of them are. I think they're just going for interviews, which, I mean, it makes sense. If you talk, those speed camps are like, I think they're like 8 weeks. Those camps that they go to, there's just not enough time. I mean, we're a little bit over. Usually what they do is they take a month off and then they enlist in like a 2-month camp. Well, Ohio State didn't have barely a month off from the championship game. So I think you're going to see these guys do shit at the pro day, and that's pretty much it. I think Ohio State's even going to push back the pro day. I think they're going to push it back, to like as close as possible to draft without being like, the draft. But yeah, I think those 15 guys are just going to go for interviews. I was a little shocked that Josh Fryer wasn't invited. This is a guy who was a multi-year starter at Ohio State, all Big Ten, all conference level guy, played very well down the stretch. That was a little shocking to me. I'm kind of shocked G. Scott didn't get invited either, just because he used to be a 5-star recruit. Sometimes those recruiting rankings kind of push you forward because they want to see, hey, this guy was athletic at one point, let's check it out. But
right.
That's not what happened with him either. So I was kind of shocked that those two guys got snubbed. But it is what it is. Like I said, no, I don't believe that any Ohio State guy is going to be working out. If I had to put money, who was going to help their stock the most at the combine with working out, it was going to be Donovan Jackson. With what you're going to see with what he did at left tackle, you're going to see a lot of NFL scouts try to figure out if he has the athleticism. He's not going to play tackle in the NFL, but he is going to play guard. And if he can play tackle, like if he could be a swing guy, you're going to see NFL scouts really, juice over that. So I think they're going to try to figure. I think he can do it. I guess is the moral of the story. So that's kind of my guess.
You brought up a good point. You've got $15 in your hand. Would you rather spend $15 at the Ohio State Spring Showcase or Ohio State Pro Day?
That's actually really good. Man, I think the Pro Day would be pretty interesting. It's
right.
There's not a lot of people there. You're seeing these guys. You're basically there for the biggest job interview that these guys are ever going to see. So I think that'd probably be my choice right there.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really awesome. Looking at the recruiting, saw two higher recruits projected to Clemson. I think the O-line can reverse this.
Who are you? Give me the recruits. I've been trying to follow recruiting for the next year for the class of 2026. I saw Chris Henry Jr. is taking some trips out to the West Coast. That's a little alarming. Jackson Cantwell is I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's the number 1 offensive lineman in the class of 2026 from the state of Missouri, and he's visiting Ohio State. Clemson's not even on his list. I think that it is early enough to flip whoever they need to flip, whoever they want to flip. I think that Tyler
two Ohio offensive linemen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to figure out who those could be. But Ohio State's been doing pretty well, kicking ass the recruiting trail. Everybody that they've hired has been more personable than the guy that they were playing, other than Justin Fry. Justin Fry is a really nice guy. But Tyler Bowen is my understanding, is a very, very effective man on the recruiting show. We've actually talked about that. And Matt Patricia's all Matt Patricia has to do is say hello to recruits. He's a far better recruiter than Jim Knowles. So if those guys want to get it, they can get it.
Last question, just rapid fire about the NFL draft coming up. How many Buckeyes in the first round, Josh?
3.
3? Okay.
I think it's Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, and Emeka Egbuka.
I'm going Simmons, Jackson, and Buka as well. I'm going 3.
If you the wild card, if you ask me, like, hey, who's a wild card that could flop? I'm trying to think of the last Ohio State guy to shock everybody. Damon Arnett was pretty crazy. When Damon Arnett got drafted in the first round, everybody was like, what?
Right.
I think Will Howard's that guy this year. I could see Will Howard really, really making a coach and GM fall in love with him, and then maybe getting picked in the Kenny Pickett range.
I could see it pick 30, 31, 32. Someone wanting a physical pass blocking running back in Travion Henderson.
In the first round?
I'm talking 30, 31, 32.
The problem I have with Travion, I don't think you're wrong. I like that, but the other reason why I picked Will Howard is because after Shador and Cam Ward come off the board, there's a dearth of nothingness, just vagueness. You got Jalen Milroe, right? Jackson Dart, right? And I'm not making that sound because they're bad. Just there's a lot of question marks. So I could see someone being like, God, I could see someone falling in love with one of those players and rolling the dice. The problem with Travion Henderson, and I don't think you're wrong. If we're talking based on pure athleticism and who deserves to be there, I think you're right. But the issue I have is because Ashton Jinx is going to be a first-round pick. Amarian Hampton is going to be that fringe. That's going to be the second running back off the board, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So there would have to be 3 running backs off the board for Travion to go, and I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Doug jumped in. Adam Guthrie is 1, and Will chime back in. Maxwell Riley. Those are the 2.
Yeah. So Guthrie is if Ohio State wants those guys, here's how. When you're talking about those local recruits, right, especially with a guy like Guthrie, you have to be sure that when you offer him, that's who you want, because you're going to look like a real dick if you send him one of those offers that's not a real offer. I fully believe that if Ohio State wants those guys, they can get them. I don't know how hard Ohio State is pushing for those guys. I believe that Maxwell Riley, because that was trying to Google. That's the kid from Avon Lake. I would not be surprised if you see Ohio State make a major push for him, because that guy is a bona fide 4-star. But Guthrie, I don't know about that. Might be more of a situation with the coaching staff kind of delaying what they're doing. But also, there's been a lot of Clemson's maintained most of their staff. Ohio State's dealing with a lot of upheaval. So when they get the new staff in and they start doing the recruiting shit on the offensive line, I can see that. I'm not worried about Ohio State's recruiting. Under Ryan Day, under this coaching staff, everybody that they've hired and they brought in is a really good recruiter, has a great track record of that. Other than Matt Patricia, but he's got fucking 3 Super Bowl rings.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're talking about those coaching changes. Those 2 gentlemen there in the graphic we've got. Hey, former Purdue offensive line coach Marcus Johnson and former Oklahoma State offensive line coach Charlie Dickey. I don't know if he goes Charlie as Charles. They're both serving as senior analyst type roles this season. No, you go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was going to say Marcus Johnson. I was actually really excited to see that come across my screen, because first of all, that guy was a really good offensive lineman when he played. He was all SEC. He was in the NFL for 4, 5, 6 years. And then he has a really, really strong resume. I mean, he's coached at like 5 different schools.
He was a coach at Purdue, Ole Miss, Duke, Mississippi State, Missouri.
Yeah, and all those schools when the time he was there were pretty okay. The Purdue offensive line. Here's another. I'm not going to sit here and act like I can. The problem with the reason I'm not as excited about Dickey is because I didn't watch every single Oklahoma State game. I watched every single Purdue game. The offensive line was never the problem. It was never the problem. There's some boys. They're big boys. When I was on the field for the Ohio State Purdue game, I texted you, Chris, and I said, "God damn, this is a big team," because they were. The offensive line was big. Gus Hartwig, great center. That Mablau, he's gonna be drafted within the first 3 rounds. The offensive tackle from Purdue, and the other offensive tackle was also huge and looked like he had some ability to play. They were. When I was watching them practice before the game, pregame, their offensive line was pretty slick. So I like Marcus Johnson. And remember, too, he's not going to be the offensive line coach. He's going to be a senior analyst, right? So you're taking a guy who I don't think was a bad offensive line coach based off of, me watching the guys shake their ass, basically. And you're making him a senior analyst. Like, to me, that's a win. And then Dickey, assuming Oklahoma State's offensive line, I don't think that, again, I didn't watch every Oklahoma State game, but I don't think that their offensive line has ever really been the issue with that team. And I mean, obviously, they've had some running backs break a lot of records, and both of those running backs, they ended up being pretty okay, not like superstars, right? Chuba Hubbard, he's not lighting the world up in Carolina, and Ollie Gordon kind of took a step back this year after cashing a big old NIL check into some endorsements. So, maybe the offensive line deserves more credit. And again, he's not going to be the offensive line coach. He's going to be a senior analyst. And I like the fact that they brought both of these guys in to be senior analysts with these offensive line backgrounds, because I fully assume that Tyler Bowen is going to have a major role as the run game coordinator with Brian Hartline to figure out what to do with this offense, which is good. I think that's great. Brian Hartline has never called plays before. So Tyler Bowen has that experience, former offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. So having him focus more on that aspect of it and these guys helping on the offensive line, it's a great idea. Remember, that rule changes in the NCAA this year where you can have basically unlimited coaches on the field. So it's not like when they hired, who was it, like Tom Coughlin or no, who was it? Who did they hire that was sitting up in the stands?
Oh, hell.
I want to say Kirk Cameron, but that's Not even.
That's not Kirk Cameron.
I can't remember who it was. But you know what I was talking. Oh, Joe Philbin. Yeah. Joe Philbin.
Joe Philbin, yeah.
Yeah, Joe Philbin. But he couldn't go on the field.
Yeah. Kevin Wilson with the team. Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I know a lot of people hate Kevin Wilson. I don't know why. But a lot of people, the people I know that hate Kevin Wilson, hated him as an offensive coordinator, which again, I don't know why. Very good offensive. I thought he was very good offensive coordinator at Ohio State, and the offense was humming it. When he got fired from Indiana, I don't really know that was a good decision. I mean, obviously it is now, but
Will was there with the assist.
But I'd be cool with Kevin Wilson.
No, I'd have no issue at all. But hey, we've got some more experienced minds on the coaching staff and as analysts. Who else we got in this picture? Hey, we've got Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate came out this week, said, hey, he was offered a fat $1 million. And his comments were, the plan was never to leave. Tate said, I don't know where that came from, where it started. I bleed Ohio State. I would have preferred I bleed Scarlet and Gray, but his quote was, I bleed Ohio State. A cool mill. That's a lot of money, my friend.
So how do you want to approach this topic? First of all, do you think he's I think that I don't think it makes you a bad person.
He was approached live at a Columbus Crew game, right on camera. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think it makes him a bad person for considering that. You know what I mean?
You're a kid. Let's be real.
Yeah.
A phone call. I'm going to answer it.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State upped what they were paying him NIL. I don't think it was $1 million. I bet it was damn close. I bet he'll be making $1 million based off of the endorsement deals and what he's getting NIL from Ohio State. So I don't think that's a huge concern. But yeah, I mean, I believe it 100%. It's true. I think that he probably considered it a little bit longer than he wants to admit.
No, I'd agree. Let's not split hairs here. I think we said it all season long.
Yeah,
he's the best number 3 receiver in college football. He could be a number 1 on 90% of programs as well. You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean, you got to think of it. You're a young kid. You're number 3. You just won a national championship. You're excited going into this next year. You're going to be an absolute key factor of this offense. You're going to be the other side of the ball.
Yeah,
and it's cool to hear some sort of value or worth associated with that. I mean, and it's not the days of when we were younger, but now you can put a dollar sign next to it. I mean,
yeah.
You can't fault the kid for it.
Yeah. Plus, I believe that the schools that were offering him that kind of cash had a lot of unknowns surrounding what they were going to do with the offense. Like, I fully believe that those teams came at him and said, hey, not only are you going to make $1 million, but you're also going to be our bona fide number 1 receiver. And he probably was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I imagine that he had a conversation with Coach Day or whoever's in charge of the NIL and said, this is the situation. And they sat down and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And by the way, the offense isn't going to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, we have answers. We know what's going on.
Right.
But I guess we don't know until we know.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. How confident you are, Patricia? A couple quarters of success in New England, being out of a job a couple of years and not going with Bill to North Carolina. We've talked about it in our own, kind of offline in a sense. I like Matt Patricia. I'm a Matt Patricia fan. The NFL landscape is very much, what have you done for me lately? Yes, he is a bona fide defensive coordinator through and through. He was given an opportunity to be a head coach, and I mean, let's be real. Who's not gonna be tempted to jump on that train and see if you can cut it? There's nothing wrong with being the best defensive coordinator in the National Football League. But I'm excited for Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, Chris. Even more so, I was really upset that I saw as much discourse around him as there was. I mean, I get it. He was a terrible head coach for the Lions in the NFL. So what? He's not going to be the head coach here. Do you know how great that is? That he was a head coach of the NFL. He's going to be your defensive coordinator. You know who else is a shitty head coach? Jim Knowles. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of guys that they can't hack it as head coach. And he hasn't gone long without a job. If your concern is like, okay, when he got fired from the Lions, why didn't he get another job as a coordinator somewhere? That's a fair concern. I don't have the answer for that. But Bill Belichick did pick up the phone immediately and shimmied his ass, gave him a fucking paycheck. I think he was even the offensive line coach for the Patriots when he came back at one point or some kind of Yeah. So it's like, he clearly Bill Belichick, who's a goddamn genius, had a lot of value in Patricia. Now, but again, I understand your concern, like, oh, well, he didn't get another coordinator job. And then when he was handed over the keys to the Philadelphia Eagles defense, it stunk. Now, again, is that his fault? I don't think so. I mean, I don't watch a ton of NFL, but I mean, that Eagles defense was not the Eagles defense we're seeing with Cooper DeJean and Mitchell from Toledo. Like it's not. And that young defensive line was another year older. I don't think that's necessarily fair either. But again, the NFL is way different than college. And your third point about why didn't Bill Belichick bring him down North Carolina? Well, because Bill Belichick hired his son to be the defensive coordinator. Right. And I think the plan at North Carolina is that Bill Belichick's going to coach for 5 years and then hopefully hand it down to Steve. Matt Patricia does deserve to be a coordinator. So I fully believe that Bill Belichick probably asked him to join him down North Carolina as some kind of defensive line coach or something like that. And he was like, no. I'm at least a coordinator. So I have a ton of faith in this. I like this. I think I've heard from people that have talked to him. They say he's a very nice guy. He works well with others. Things went sideways with the Lions, and he was in over his head, and he tried to be Bill Belichick. Well, he can be himself at Ohio State. So I think I think it's a great move. I think it's a good move. I think that there's enough of a safety net too, to where if it is a bad move, we're probably not even going to know. Larry Johnson's still there. Tim Walton was promoted to co-defensive coordinator, who has been there, who also, by the way, has really, really shitty NFL experience. No one talks about that, right? And then Matt Gary, who we were told was a genius over and over again, is still there as well. So I really, really have high hopes for Patricia. And again, if he can at least talk to somebody, he's going to be a far better recruiter than Jim Knowles. And that's pretty much inarguable.
No, I agree. Will comes in. I really don't know much about him. Hey, listen, when it comes to Matt Patricia, he likes to let his defensive line go after the football. He likes to stunt. He likes to do, a little bit of movement. You're not going to see any of this. Let's pull a defensive end and make him a rover or a bandit or any of this experimental shit we did a couple of years ago. He likes to get after the football. He's a physical guy. He likes to move guys up. He really, with his tenure in New England, you got to look at some of those defenses. Yeah, you're going to get masked by the great Tom Brady, but he didn't have absolute studs on that defense. He had just hard-nosed individuals that made fewer mistakes, and they got after the football. And I think, like Josh said, hey, you've got a wealth of great coaches around you as well. Two, you've got a returner in a lot of individuals that come back that got meaningful snaps. You've got Caleb Downs. That's a given. Don't get me wrong. You've got another brain, another extension of your defensive prowess on the field. It's, the sky's the limit for his intelligence, but you got Sonny Styles, you got Arvell Reese. And I think one of the biggest things about Matt Patricia is he plays a physical game of football. And that's what the Buckeyes are wanting to, especially when it comes to, that last week in November.
Yeah. And two more things about Patricia too. Like what Jim Knowles brought to the table is that he had his defense that he believed in, and this is how he's running it, right? So it's I don't know how to compare it because I'm not eloquent enough to explain it, but basically he had an idea. This is what all 11 guys should look like, and this is what all 11 guys should do. Matt Patricia doesn't coach like that. Matt Patricia runs you down and says, you go there, you go there, you go there. You're going to be really good at. He identifies your skill set and revolves the defense around that. Right, just like Bill Belichick, that's what he learned from Bill Belichick. Right, he doesn't force you to do something that you're uncomfortable with. Right, a good example. I saw someone talking about those Patriots teams with Patrick Chung. Well, he had Patrick Chung, who was an exciting athlete at safety, and he moved him around. It would not surprise me to see him have Caleb Downs in a Patrick Chung-like role. This is a guy who has experience with a 3-man front, a 4-man front, 2 deep safeties, 1 deep safety. If you name it, and he's coached it. And I think that Ryan Day was looking for that. I think Ryan Day wanted someone experienced because there's no experience on the offensive side with Hartline. He wanted someone with experience.
I thought it was Patrick Chung. It's actually Devin McCourty.
Oh, damn, so close. But he wanted to bring someone in with experience and someone who was more flexible, right? We talked about the issues with Jim Knowles and the butting of the head. And again, no one's bashing Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles was great, but there were some issues there in the locker room. And Matt Patricia, I think that he's more flexible in how he wants to do things, which I think is a big bonus for Ryan Day. Now, another concern that I saw was Matt Patricia did have a run-in with the law in the 90s. I believe he was in college.
Yes.
And people are bringing that up like, oh, well, this is a really religious group. The locker room, the culture is really important. Bringing in a guy like that with that kind of past. First of all, it was a really long time ago. I don't think that his rap sheet is as long as, we talked about Jim or McMahon at the beginning of the episode.
Vince McMahon. Yeah.
I'm not excusing what he did or what he didn't do, right? He was never charged with anything, but I think that you are grasping at straws at that point, if that makes sense. Like, again, I'm not condoning anything. I'm just purely saying you're picking one event that may or may not have happened back in 1996 when he was a college kid. Maybe let's chill out.
No. Will comes in, hey, he ran a lot of 3-4. Patricia, he ran a little bit of 3-4. When he ran that 3-4, it was right after you saw that mass exodus of those stud linemen that they had. You saw Richard Seymour out. You saw Vrabel out. You saw some of those. He went back to there was a couple times you would see a 5-2 and then 4-4. And then, during that great Super Bowl comeback, was it 2016, the Eagles one? You saw a lot of 3-4, but you saw a lot of Donta Hightower on the line of scrimmage, and you know how that ended up with Donta Hightower as well, and how that played out in the Super Bowl. Doug jumped in. Patricia's good at scheming the defense, the advantage of the skill set. Yeah, he's going to play the strengths. I mean, when you've got the strengths that you do, absolutely. And I think, like Will said, I think these two are going to be thicker than thieves, both Johnson and Matt Patricia. I think they're going to both sit there with each other, and they're just going to fucking play with each other's toys. And I think they're going to get an idea to showcase their groups, strengths and abilities.
Yeah, they're just going to play with each other like two men, like two men do. Right.
Honestly,
I think that back to your question about what are they going to run. I think that they're going to run whatever they're comfortable with. I think you're going to see multiple looks. Like a guy like CJ Stroud, it wouldn't surprise me, or CJ Stroud, a guy like CJ Hicks, it wouldn't surprise me if you have big, massive guys that aren't quite defensive ends, but they're very good defensive tackles, but they could also be, in a 3-man front. Edric Houston, Cade McDonald, on your, play a 3-man front, and then have a guy like CJ Hicks be your outside edge rusher in a 3-4 look. Maybe you're bringing in. I know that they're really high on Arvell Reese and Peyton Pierce, right? Arvell Reese was practicing at defensive end for a good chunk of his freshman season. Maybe you line him up outside linebacker. I'm not making any predictions here. Matter of fact, we talked about CJ Hicks. I think that we're probably seen the ceiling of what he can do a little bit. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just pointing out, like, if there is something there, if there is juice to squeeze, he will squeeze it and we will see it. And that goes for everybody.
Hey, squeeze and see my juice. All right, Will, I think you're by recruiting. Patricia says, hey, listen, you got Patricia. Who doesn't want to come and take a visit just to hear some stories? Who doesn't want to take a visit and let's be real, the guy's a goddamn practically a fucking rocket scientist in a sense, right? Come on.
So yeah. We got a couple. Did you get to? Did we cover the comments by Doug?
We sure did. And Jay Richardson,
he would know. He played under him, so he would definitely know. The key with the recruiting is, even if Matt Patricia is even if Matt Patricia is old or lame in the eyes of these high school kids, right? Which is possible. The Patriots, when they were good, these kids were, in middle school. Tom Brady didn't look like a freak back then. You know what I mean? It's a long time ago. Now Tom Brady looks like a freak. He's on TV, and Matt Patricia is terrible. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what these high school kids are into, but I can tell you that Jim Knowles didn't recruit, and he was weird. He was an awkward dude. Remember, he was a vegan. We talked about that, or a vegetarian or whatever. He was just an awkward dude. He didn't like to talk. You saw him. You could go look at his press conferences. I'm not being mean. I'm not saying anything that no one knows. And he didn't like to recruit. He didn't recruit. I think the only player that he recruited that I want to give him credit for is Caleb Downs. So, which is big, but also he picked up the phone for anybody was going to pick up the phone for Caleb Downs.
Yeah, you weren't gonna silence that call. So no, I think you're dead on. Two final little ankle biters. Hey, we've got Mike Brewster, old former center, number 50. He is now the offensive line coach here in the Big Ten in my new home state of Washington. He is the Huskies offensive line coach. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm devastated by that. We talked about Brewster last year. Brewster was coaching at my alma mater, Valparaiso. Go Crusaders. I refuse to say the Pussy Beacons.
Love it.
But, he was there for 1 year. He moved on. Good for him. Big promotion, going to Washington. Mike Brewster, former 5-star recruit from the state of Florida, was on the cover of like Athlon magazine, and I think he was an All-American at one point. He was in the NFL for a bit. I think he went undrafted because he was just a little too small. But I hear he's a hell of a coach.
I've heard the exact same. And anytime you can go ahead and say, hey, I'm an offensive lineman, an All-American. Now I'm an offensive line coach in the Big Ten. Congratulations, bud.
You should go to the spring game, harass him for an autograph. Be like, Mike.
They're probably having a showcase as well, and it'll be raining. And it's Washington, so it'll be raining.
You should go to the Washington Spring Showcase.
And last ankle biter, we've got Jermaine Matthews. He has switched back to his high school number. He will be wearing number 7 this year. Cool. Would you say that 7's starting to become a little bit of a legacy number as well at Ohio State?
Yeah, I think so, dude. I don't know if I'd put it who is it? Is it Florida State that puts fuck? What did Greg Jones wear? They put aside. It's 8, right? Because Peter Warrick wore it too. Is it 6? Why did you let me guess if you knew?
Peter Warrick wore 9.
Why did you let me guess and make a fool of myself if you knew, you prick?
I did the same thing with Kurt Murphy. That's 2.
There you go. Yeah,
but
State does the same thing too with 11, right? They put it aside for a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want them to do that, but it is. I mean, there's a lot of fucking good guys that wore 7.
No, absolutely. But same number he wore at Cincinnati Whitten Woods High School, number 7. But yeah, it's appearing to be some sort of a legacy number. I'm with it. I think I would go on a limb here and say the Buckeyes have 2 legacy numbers. I'm definitely going to say number 2. I'm definitely going to say number 7.
What do you mean? Guys that you can think of 85 million dudes that wore it?
Dudes that every year someone's wearing that number, they're studs.
I do feel like 2 was. I feel like there's a lot of good 2 in our lifetime. I
think every roster has a stellar 2 on it.
Yeah. But remember, they retired 10. They retired 44, which I hate. I wish that they would retire numbers like the NFL retires numbers, where it's you just put the jersey up, but people can still use the number. It just right. 45's retired. I think I said that already. But yeah, there's two. You nailed it with 2 because I mean, there's.
I can't think in our lifetime or having a roster without a stud wearing number 2.
I know, right? Yeah.
Maybe that could be the spring game. Coaches play and players coach. Ooh.
I mean, all the coaches are young enough. Shit, all the coaches on staff are basically our age now, dude.
You're gonna have Ryan Day just slinging it to Brian Hartline.
Good.
Just running 2-yard bubble screens.
It's just a damn shame. I wish Chip Kelly, if they would do that, I wish Chip Kelly was still here. I'd love to see his fat ass walling up and down the field.
Good Lord.
I love Chip Kelly. I love him. But you have to the dude is shaped a little bit like a Weeble Wobble.
He looks like an amoeba. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk. It's so funny watching him tell people what to do that are look like gods, and he's shaped
right.
It's so. And I fully believe that he kicked my ass. I fully believe it. I'm
Naturally.
not dismissing Chip Kelly. Yeah, just based off of pure dickheadedness, he just would he would beat my ass. Yours too. I think at the same time, to be honest.
Oh, he'd roll me up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've hit the hour mark, but Josh, we have a guest next week, do we not?
Yeah, man, we're bringing on Colby Dant, host of the college football experience. The college experience does football and basketball. No one knows the game of football, college football, better than Colby. He does HBCU, D2, D3, D1. He has an episode out. He's taking a little bit of a hiatus with college football, obviously, but he released an episode last week talking about the Bill Belichick hiring at North Carolina, his expectations there. If you kind of want to get a feel for what he does, he's very active on X as well. But we're going to have him come on here. We're going to ask him his expectations for Ohio State next year. There you go. That's his YouTube channel. The expectation, what he thought about Ohio State this past year, how he would change college football. We're gonna be commissioner. We're gonna give Commissioner Colby a chance to figure out what he wants to do. And it should be noted, he is a Buckeye hater. He hates Ohio State. I very rarely hear him say nice shit about Ohio State. So bring the heat, brothers.
So are we going to sit here with like old school barrister wigs tomorrow or next week and decide on some of these propositions?
We should roll it. Yeah, we should. See how much those bad boys are on Amazon. Don't tell them either. Just be like, hey man, thanks for coming on the podcast.
We're just robes and shit too.
Feel like it's sunny Philadelphia.
Then we've got, that takes us into March. Then the week after, are we finally in 2 weeks? Are we finally going to draft our national championship offenses?
Let's do it. I'm cool with that.
Okay, we're gonna
do that. We promised people we would do the recruiting class thing too. So yeah. The recruiting class that's like a big old project. Like that's like something you and I got to work on. Like after
that's something we got to work on. But also we can also look at recruiting classes, or we can look at recruiting classes under head coaches.
Yeah, I think we can discuss how we want to tally that, because that's what we're trying to figure out, right? Who had the best recruiting classes. Right. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to devise basically a scoring system.
Okay.
We'll probably have to talk about that off air, I suppose, right?
No, absolutely. And I see that we've got a little bit of love on Facebook from our friend Donovan. He's got a new gig. We'll have to bring Donovan back on and talk about much as I be the dismay of our viewers here, some SEC game that Donovan be spitting nowadays, huh? Yeah.
No, Donovan is swinging a big dick in college football news lately, covering the SEC in Indiana. So we'll have to have him on.
Will, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at these last 3 national championship teams. We're going to look at 2002, we're going to look at 2014, and obviously 2024. And we're going to look at every player at those positions, and we're going to draft our own all-time national championship team, our era's Ohio State national championship team. So that'll be in 2 weeks.
But do we want to go older than that, or is that too old? Is that
you want to go all the way back to 68?
I don't know, because it's like I kind of want to, because there's just so many legends on that team: Jack Tatum, Rex Curd, Mike Sensabaugh, Tim Fox. But at the same time, football was such a different game.
You just really want to make me choose between Mike Doss and Jack Tatum, huh?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jan White's on that team. Jan White, All-American tight end. Got a chance to interview him. He told me the best athlete he ever saw or he ever played with was O.J. Simpson. And he followed up by saying, I don't know him as a person, though.
No, we said, drafting championship teams going back old might be. No, I gotcha. But no, we will be back next week. Please check out the College Experience podcast, though. Go ahead and get your prejudgments in now, and bring that hate, bring that that bias you might or might not have to the podcast next week. Again, Josh said he's a known Buckeye hater, but he does have all the answers to write all of the college football landscape apparently. So I'm very interested in that.
Gambling expert, definitely, yeah. And when you go to his page, tell him Ohio State of Mind sent you. He is if you want to know what where his allies lie, it's East Carolina, big East Carolina guy.
Okay, big Pirates fan. Yeah, let him know that Ohio State of Mind podcast sent you, and hell's coming with you.
That's right.
But hey, as always, I'm Chris. You can find me at crunning15 on X. Josh?
Yeah, follow me on X at Josh Keatley 16. Definitely check out my work at Buckeye's Wire. I'm trying to ramp it up a little bit. This kid is killing me. But yeah.
No, I hear you, bud. It eventually gets easier. Don't worry. All those helmets behind you. We got any new signings we're going to anytime soon, boss?
Well, actually, Jim Tressel is having a private one. I will not be going to. If I can't meet him, there's no point. But my lovely friends at R&J Promotions is putting it on. They had 6 people drop out. Low price is $70. Jim Tressel's never been cheaper. I don't know if he's going to be doing this again. I believe all the money is going to charity. Obviously, Lieutenant Governor now. But yeah, if you're interested in that, follow R&J Promotions on Facebook, or message me on I can send you the link. Randy Gradishar's coming into town. I might be there for that. I got Randy Gradishar on a few things, but I might be there to say hi again. There's the national championship team is going to be at the Polaris Mall. God, we talked about this. I can't remember, but all those guys are $100, $150. I think there's a couple guys that are 40. I think Josh Fryer, Jordan Hancock are 40, and then the punter is 30, but I can't remember. And then Webster Slaughter, former Cleveland Brown and Indianapolis Colts legend, will be up in Columbus March 9th. Definitely going to that one, my friend.
Love it. Hey, go ahead and hit R&J up, and maybe we'll throw a logo up here, get a little bit of sponsorship. How about that?
Yeah. We'll try to get that sponsorship going. I'd have a sponsorship to Arby's, but yeah.
Ooh, beef and sheds, baby. Will, hey, man, thanks for jumping on. We hope to see you guys next week. Always a pleasure having you on here, Bond. Doug, thank you again. Come back next week, man. We appreciate it. Happy Randy made the Hall of Fame. Yes.
Finally.
Yes. Finally. That was always my thing. I always love seeing him in the Hall of Fame, but when they get that College Football Hall of Fame big, like almost scroll placard, there's nothing better looking than that, is there?
Well, he's in both.
Oh, I'm aware of that. I saw it. I'm talking about the NCAA. Yeah, I think it's so nice.
Man, I think that the when they get that bust though, that's just they set.
Don't get me wrong. You get the bust, you get the gold jacket, but your bust always makes you look fucking like you're missing a chromosome too.
But I guess all the older dudes have like a big party. Yeah, that's true. all the older dudes have a big party afterwards. So like
naturally,
you're partying with Jerry Rice, Steve Atwater, Tim Brown. When you win the College Football Hall of Fame, sometimes those guys are, like me and you, got real jobs and shit. So you know what I mean? God bless them. God bless them.
No, you're not wrong. But for the Ohio State Mind podcast, I'm Chris. That's Josh. We will see you next week. I'll get the last one in. Randy's all-time great. Oh yeah,
100%.
No question. Nothing but Randy Gradishar love here. I'm Chris. That's Josh. This is the Ohio State of Mind podcast. We will see you next Monday with our very special guest from the College Football Experience. We hope to see you. We will see you Monday. And go Bucks.
Go Bucks.